If you are interested in stories with happy endings, then you are better off reading another book. In this book, there is no happy ending, there is no happy beginning, and very few happy things happen in the middle. With this opening words of the book, you have been warned. Hi everyone, welcome to the Legal Edges channel. My name is Tanya, and in today's book talk, we are going to talk about Bad Beginnings by Lemony Snicket. Bad Beginnings is the first book in the series of unfortunate events. It's a 13 book part series by Lemony Snicket. I am sure that a lot of you might have already read it by now as part of your language improvement toolkit exercise at Legal Edge. But for all those of you who haven't, please stick to the end of the video, and I'm sure you're going to be incentivized enough to pick this book up by yourself. So, without further ado, uh, some of the key facts about the book, let us address them. So, the book was published on 30th September back in 1999, and it is still so relevant, and I'm sure you're still going to find it relatable as you read the book. I'm sure you will be entertained by it. The author of the book is Daniel Handler. He's an American writer who writes under the pen name of Lemony Snicket. The genre of the book is absurdist fiction. Of course, it is humorous and adventurous. It follows the adventures of the three Baudelaire children. So, it is written in a manner that makes it humorous and brings out the comic element of the author, which is addressed in their writing style itself. And absurdist fiction is essentially a genre where even fiction, which is already not, which is usually not that far from reality, even though the story might not be true, absurdist fiction kind of exaggerates the story to a bit to make it evident to the reader that it is absurd. Like no person would act in such a manner, and they exaggerate the point or the characters so you know that it is fictional in nature and it is not true. These events might be unfortunate, but they are not true, so you do not have to worry. The tone and the writing style, so it is written in third person omniscient narration. So it is narrated. The author is telling us, narrating us the story and the adventure that the three Baudelaire children have faced while trying to escape from the evil planning and plotting of their distant relative, Count Olaf, which is also the major struggle or the central idea of the book. That is how these children are fighting against the obliviousness of the adults and how they manage to escape from the evil plans that Count Olaf tries to keep ensnaring them in. And it is written in a omniscient narrative. That is, there are times when the author, while narrating the story, takes a pause to address the readers themselves, and it feels like he's talking, and it feels and it is written to address the readers themselves, and it is going to make you feel like the author himself is a character in the book and he was present throughout the time as all these events were unfolding. So when you read the book, you will see where I'm coming from. And he's taken a rather ominous topic, taken a rather gloomy topic, but managed to give it such a whimsical and interesting take that even while describing an unfortunate event, you will not be feeling low because of it. In fact, you kind of look forward to see how they get out of this and what is, in part, what is in store for the Baudelaire's children next. So the plot overview, no spoilers here, so do not worry. Okay, so the book is a story of three Baudelaire children whose parents have unfortunately perished in a fire, and they have now been assigned under the guardianship of a mysterious uncle of theirs that they haven't heard of before and they haven't met him. And when they are introduced to each other, they find out that he is a very cruel man who neglects the children and his only objective is to get his hands on their enormous fortune that the parents have left behind. So the story revolves around, it opens with this sad news of the parents, of them losing their parents in this unfortunate fire, and eventually meeting Count Olaf, who is this mysterious uncle, and how they manage to scrape by and how they manage to escape from his evil plans so far. So, as the story goes on and the plot thickens, the climax holds one big evil plan that he had been working on with all his other minions in charge. And this evil plan is now afoot. So, that I'm going to let you pick up the book and find out whether these children manage to escape from this or not. And yes, so The importance of the title is called The Bad Beginning, which is also, I think, why we picked it as the first book in our language improvement toolkit series also. So there is no more jinxing this upcoming series. But The Bad Beginning is named very aptly because not only as the beginning of the series, it's a 13-part series, like I said. So not only as the beginning of the series, but also for the beginning of the story. The story also opens with a very unfortunate beginning as the author advises us with his first line of the book, and also for the entire series, which set the course of action for the series apart, was this one bad beginning of running into Count Olaf and learning that now the lives of Baudelaire children is always going to revolve around trying to escape from his plans and ensuring that they are safe and their fortune is safe too. So, of course, there are a lot of interesting characters in this particular book, right? Of course, there are Violet, Klaus, and Sunny, who are pleasant children with pleasant facial features, as the author describes them. Violet is inventive and innovative in her way. She's always trying to engineer something new. Klaus is a bookworm. He pores over a lot of books from his parents' library. So he has gathered a lot of knowledge for himself. Sunny is an infant, but even for her age, she is shown as an extremely observant child. So all of the children are intelligent and smart as they have been described. There is obviously Count Olaf, who is the main villain. There is Mr. Poe, the banker, Justice Strauss, and throughout it, they all bring a lot of amusement and interesting turns and pivots to the storyline. So what I have done is this: I'm giving you a sample exercise. I've taken Mr. Poe, the first adult character brought into the book, and if you'd like, you can do this for all the characters. What I did is make a circle and, like a mind map, I have taken all the adjectives or words that I feel relate to them, to this particular character that comes to mind after reading the story. And it will really help you with word building, and it will help you increase your vocabulary bank as well as understand a lot of things that the questions that are asked on inference of what you can infer about a character from the story given. So even if it is not given in explicit manner, you will be able to draw a lot of conclusions of the story and the character for yourself. So it's a very interesting exercise. I, for one, feel Mr. Poe is oblivious to the children. He is shown as an extremely assiduous character. He has a very hectic schedule that he has to stick to. He's always busy, he's always working. He follows a very strictly professional manner of his, even when he is dealing with these very young children, and he deals with them professionally, right? So even when they need to reach out to him, he says, you need to fix an appointment, and he follows a strict code of conduct also. So he also shows a turn in his character. What started as a very neutral character by the end of it, with his take with the how the climax comes, how the climax unfolds, you will see that he shows a very strict code of conduct as well as a strict code of moral towards fulfilling his obligations towards the will of the Baudelaire parents that they had left for the benefit of their children. So make a mind map of your own and uh, do share it with me if you would like. I would love to see your take on these characters. So a running theme in the book is childhood, which is obviously represented through Violet, Klaus, and Sunny. And we talk about the conflict that they have when they lose their parent, or what it is like to be treated as a child by a lot of adults, even though they are represented as smarter and more intelligent than a lot of them. And that is how children feel a lot of time. They feel like the parents don't understand them or the adults do not see their viewpoint. So in the book, we are siding with the children, and this theme is a running course about the obliviousness of the adults, while some things are painstakingly obvious to the children. The second running theme, or the major theme, is good versus evil, of how even after running into such a cruel and mean man, such as Count Olaf, the three children represent goodness and how they still maintain it, how they keep it intact even in facing such adversity. Which brings us to the third theme, which is talking about facing challenges and coming out of it victorious. So the theme is about how even in the most difficult of times, you can come out of it and you can do something marvelous or something amazing, even in such adversity and in such difficult times, especially when you have your family standing by you. So the three children have each other and they try to make the best out of all situations for the sake of the other. And that are the three major running themes of the book. Symbols are certain writing devices, literary devices that are used to represent something. So, for example, in the opening of the book, when we are talking about the fire in which the Baudelaire parents perished, unfortunately, the fire also acts as a symbol for the pivotal turn that the Baudelaire's children's life were about to take. How it not only it took away their parents, which is an extremely sad event in itself, of course, but also how it took away their entire life with it. It consumed their house, their lifestyle, their livelihood, and whatever it was that they knew throughout. Whatever they had known throughout their life, it does not exist anymore. So now the uh, fire symbolizes a pivotal point in their life. And just like that, when a symbol is repeated oftentimes throughout a story, it is known as a motive. So, for example, the ribbon that Violet uses, it is used repeatedly in the book to showcase that Violet is thinking hard. As we discussed, Violet is an innovative person. So every time she uses the ribbon and she ties her hair up, it means her thought wheels are churning and she's thinking of another solution or she's trying to engineer something new. So it is a motive that symbolizes her intelligence and it symbolizes how she is, her wheels are churning and how she's thinking about something else now. Similarly, the eye is also a constant motive. It is something that symbolizes Count Olaf's character. It also shows how the children are always under some adult supervision, which you will read through the book itself. But the eye is on his door when they enter his home, it is on his ankle. So it is again a recurring symbol that represents Olaf and something else that is afoot in the book. So I have taken some limited symbols and motifs here because I did not want to give a lot away. But please feel free to add to the list and share what you think is an interesting symbol of the story itself. And I would love to hear your take on it. I think I've already raved about this book enough, so it's obviously highly recommended from me. So the book serves two purposes. A, it is an extremely interesting read. So if you're looking to begin to fall in love with reading, if you're looking for something refreshing and interesting, do read this book. It will keep you entertained throughout, and it is going to keep you hooked. Like I said, the characters and the plot line is interesting in itself, of course, but the narrative is such a fresh take that it is going to keep you hooked till the end of it, and you're going to be very eager to know what happens next. It's going to leave you with some mixed feelings because it is such a dark topic, but it has been given such a whimsical take. So I'm sure that you will all love it. And honestly, even throughout your CLAT preparation, for certain things like your comprehension abilities, the since the book was written keeping a like, target audience in mind, which is people who want to begin reading, it is also going to make it very easy for you to ascertain some of the things, like how you observe a character, certain things that you're supposed to infer from text. So, those things to help you build your vocabulary, to help you build your reading speed. I am sure it is going to be a great book for you to begin with. So, please do read it. Let me know how you enjoyed it. Uh, Thank you so much for sticking till the end of the video. If you like such content, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. We keep churning a lot more interesting content for your benefit. Follow us on our social media handles of YouTube, Telegram, Instagram, and Facebook. If you have any questions, please call the number on the screen. It is your one-stop contact for all questions Legal Edge. Thank you so much.